Alright, so I have a couple of reviews that I read recently that I just want to take a look at and share with you. I haven't read them all the way through, but I've read little bits at the start and it just made me really want to go into it with you guys because I think they're pretty interesting. The first one we have is a review for the new Hogwarts Legacy game. Someone on Instagram sent this to me, so if you're watching, thank you. You know who you are. But yeah, this is quite an interesting review. They start off by saying there is no magic in Hogwarts Legacy. The game is mid at best, and its real-world harms are impossible to ignore. They gave it a 1 out of 10. Good start. It helped me say goodbye to the setting for good. The story is rooted in anti-Semitic tropes. Now, I want to fact check this, but I'm pretty sure I know what anti-Semitic means. I think everyone does. Anti-Semitic. Yeah, you hate Jews. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to sound like an idiot in case that wasn't what it was. But yeah, this game hates Jews. Anyway, the gameplay feels dated. The graphics feel like they're a couple generations behind. All the characters are one-dimensional. It doesn't stay true to the established lore. Every character feels like an off-brand version of the characters we know and love. There's no sense of place, no magic, no heart. Alright, good start. I don't think they like this game. Here's a spoiler alert on the side here. Buy at donate to Trans Lifeline. There's your reason why they don't like the game. This person's also a comedian. I've read a little bit of this. Yikes, y'all. I don't even smoke and I feel like I need a cigarette. Whoa, that's so edgy of you. We're here to talk about Hogwarts Legacy, and to do that we need to discuss the whole mess. Pull up a chair, pour yourself some tea, wrap yourself in a blanket, scream into a pillow or the abyss. Wow, they're so damn funny with this. This is just hilarious. I love the way they're, saying all these like funny things. Anyway, because this one's going to take a lot out of both of us or get heavy. They do a little talking about what the game is. If you don't know, it's a RPG, a role-playing game. You create your own character and you play as a wizard, as a student, and you can sort of go any route you want. It's quite fun. If you like the Harry Potter games, I think this would be a fun game to play. I quite like the films. I'm not like a super mega fan, but I think they're good films, and I'm definitely down to play this game at some point in the near future when I buy it. But yeah, obviously it's all based on J.K. Rowling's work. This is not a story for this game that is based on any book or work from her, but obviously it's based on the world she created, as anything is when it comes to Harry Potter. Nothing with a wizarding world stamp on it can be viewed outside the context of it being a product of Dame J.K. Rowling. I mean, it's not really true because she didn't make this game. She had no creative input to this game. It's just, the studio were allowed to use her, her concept in order to make a game, but she has nothing to do with it's just based on, her original work. This person goes on to say within the pages of the book, she made the ordinary seem extraordinary, blah, blah. Lonely kids would be told they're special, where kids who have survived abuse are more than just fundamentally broke. I mean, I kind of just thought this was a book about wizard kids. But obviously they're finding some deeper meaning, which is fair enough. If you want to find deeper meaning, you can. But since 2019, though, the once beloved children's author has, she's had some opinions about people like me. There is your reasoning for why this person gave a video game a 1 out of 10. Because the person who wrote this is trans, and they're using that because J.K. Rowling's made some comments to give the game a shit review. Now, what were J.K. Rowling's comments? I had to do some fact checking because for the life of me, I couldn't fucking remember what she'd said, and if it was even that bad. Basically goes along these lines: if sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people. That's a very key moment there. Erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. Isn't hate to speak the truth. So obviously, I think this is a concept that trans people don't think sex is real. Not as in the act of sex, but just the term sex. It's not a real thing, like you're assigned sex. I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole that I don't really feel like going down right now. The idea that women like me, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, feeling kinship because they're vulnerable in the same way as women, i.e. to male violence, hate trans people because they think sex is real and has lived consequences is nonsense. Which is a fair point, This woman in the interview is talking about that J.K. Rowling thinks that trans people are dangerous, a threat to real, women everywhere. I mean, this whole trans sex women thing, I don't even know where to start with it. It confuses the hell out of me because I only know like the black and white fucking definitions of these things. A woman is a woman, a man is a man, and a trans is someone who wants to be the other thing, right? I don't know. But either way, J.K. Rowling is she's quite respectful in these tweets. I respect every trans person's right to live in any way that feels authentic and comfortable with them. I'd march with you if you discriminate against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life can be shaped by being female. I do not think it's hateful to say so. So basically, J.K. Rowling doesn't hate on trans, but she just has views on some of their concepts and opinions, which is fair enough because you're allowed an opinion, right? No. When I was a kid, every word that flowed from J.K. Rowling's pen wrote magic into my world, but now every word she puts out just hurts my heart. Every homophobic or transphobic thing queer kids hear growing up becomes a voice that follows them for a long time. Blah, blah, blah. For lots of people, we fight these voices every day. It hurts in a way I honestly hope she never understands. I wouldn't wish it anyway. Yeah, this is great and all, but where's the fucking review of the game? I'm just saying, I've read a lot so far, and there's nothing about the game here. Let's see if this... I remember when the first book came out, the gangly boy and the cover illustration, blah, blah, blah. I'll be honest, it was a never-ending story. I didn't open the cover and get transported into the world of magic and mystery. I liked it, but that was it. It was the third book, The Prisoner of Azkaban, that wrapped its world around me and drew me in. It was the first time, blah, blah, blah. I avoided press... Okay, let's just skip, because she's not even talking about the game yet. I avoided... him or her. Both. Anyway, I avoided press about Hogwarts Legacy when it was first announced. I didn't want to see the gameplay. I didn't want to be awed by trailers. I avoided them like the plague because I was afraid I'd be conflicted. That I'd see a game that captured the magic of the books and my heart to leap out of my chest. I was afraid to see the lavish visuals of the films, realised in 4K and HDR. I was afraid I'd have to tell 12-year-old me that she couldn't play it and explain why. So when I got a code for Hogwarts Legacy, I braced myself. Sorry, I'm not trying to just read through the whole thing, but I am quite intrigued by what this person is saying. I thought I'd spent a lot of time in this section nitpicking, going over every grievance I had with this game. Alright, she's going to talk about the game. He's going to talk about the game. Whatever this person is going to talk about the game. Everyone just feels like an animatronic Chuck E. Cheese robot, waiting for you to come by and put coordinates at a set line of dialogue. Blah, blah, blah. The longer I spend, the more I can feel it tangible. There's definitely something missing, though maybe it was the lackluster art direction, the one-dimensional characters. They feel like store-brand versions of the one, or even the conspicuous lack of iconic genre. There's a bigger absence. Yep. The characters are absent, but they certainly don't feel alive. Okay, they don't like how the game looks. Okay, that's a fair criticism. Still can't see why it'd quite be at 1. Okay. Are we going to find out why it's anti-Jew? The story, besides being rooted in anti-Semitism, a global cabal is trying to end slavery, but that's bad because the slaves like being slaves. Doesn't even... What? What in the fuck are they talking about? It feels muddy. A minefield of unanswered questions and unexplained motivations, and speaking of which, the characters often flat out state their motivations, but they don't feel believable or even particularly coherent. It says it's Hogwarts, but it doesn't feel like Hogwarts, even despite the controversy around Rowling herself. For that reason alone, I can't in good conscience recommend spending your money on it. Combined with who this game helps and who it harms, well, it's definitely not worth it unless your goal is to cause harm. This is a familiar problem, though. It's one we see in the latest Wizarding World. The new movies are bad, not just bad morally, but bad qualitatively. Big word. They're not fun to watch, blah, blah, blah. They don't like the new movies. I'm still struggling to see how this game got a 1 out of 10 on this basis. Anyway, there's a direct correlation between how open Rowling becomes about a bigotry and how flat and heartless Wizarding World media becomes. I think it's because the LGBTQIA plus people and genuine allies... Sorry, this word allies always cracks me up. I just think of World War II. Are some of the best creative minds in the world, and these films and this game were made largely without the... Here's my point here, okay? I reckon if the whole team making this were part of this community, and it still was exactly the same as it is now, this would be getting a much better review. The game industry is far queerer than most people realise. All the things you know and love about your favourite games were made by queer people. I don't just mean directors, I mean the concept artists who bring your favourite games to life. Blah, blah. I mean, I don't doubt that there's a lot of queer, gay, lesbian, trans people that make games. That's cool. In the yawning emptiness at the heart of Hogwarts Legacy, I see the quiet solidarity of queer people and our allies in game development. The people who just said no when the job offers came their way. The ones who didn't answer the emails from Portkey Games. The ones who politely let the co-workers that working on a Harry Potter game would be harmful to the trans community. The ones who listen and say, okay, yeah, thanks for letting me go. The people who put their morals and their loved ones above an easy paycheck. This is so fucked. I probably won't ever know your names, but you know who you are. I see you, and I appreciate you more than words can ever express. Thank you for making it easy for me to close the book on Hogwarts and Harry Potter. The magic is gone and won't ever return, because without us, the Wizarding World, as is heartless as it's great. Jesus Christ. That was actually the worst review I've ever read, and I've read some fucking stinkers, but that was horrendous. 75% of that is just saying the game is anti-Semitic and saying that J.K. Rowling hates trans, and it's basically just a, oh, please feel bad for me fucking paragraph. Let's see who wrote it. Jane Rodriguez Gray is a product writer and reviewer at Wired covering coffee, sex tech, and gaming. Previously, she was a legal researcher for Thomas Reuters and a tech reporter for Digital Trends. She currently resides in Portland, Oregon with a partner and a pet rabbit named Lola. I mean, whatever. Just, what a shocking review. What part of that was even fucking talking about the game? All they said was that the AI wasn't very good. They didn't talk about the gameplay. They didn't talk about the storyline. They didn't talk about the fucking roaming, the mechanics. Just nothing. They just said it feels a bit dated, and then they just went on about the LGBTQI whatever community the whole time. That's just ridiculous. Wow, great review. Great fucking review. Main flaws were it's anti-Jew and anti-trans. Like that's got anything to do with this game. I bet if you play the game, there's literally no fucking theme of that whatsoever. Well, that was awful. Thanks for sending me that, whoever it was. That was very entertaining, I must say. Right, I have one more review here. I stumbled across this when I was making my review for The Last of Us Episode 5. Do I actually need an account? Okay, thank God. The Last of Us failed Sam with its deaf representation. I read a little bit and it was just kind of pissing me off because I thought it was just dumb as shit. Let's delve into it because I've kind of forgotten what they said that even made me mad. Hit HBO drama The Last of Us made an interesting breakaway from its original source material. As we know, it opted to have the younger Sam introduces a deaf character played by deaf child actor Kevon Woodard, something which is still very much a rarity in the media at present. So yeah, just for reference, that performance was fucking badass. It was an interesting change. It was a bold move, but I quite like the change, and I think it worked effectively. It's not the first story to explore how a deaf individual would navigate an apocalypse. Teenager Millicent Simmons starred as Regan Abbott in A Quiet Place, and its sequel, rather fittingly surviving in a world where monsters attack based on sound. And actress Lauren Ridloff appeared in The Walking Dead as Badass Connie. Badass is debatable. Eventually, there's a keen interest in how deaf people navigate a dangerous environment where auditory clues are important and making as little noise as possible is vital, especially when you consider Sam isn't deaf in the original game. So this begs two questions. Why was the decision made to make the character deaf? And given the deaf survivors we've seen before, what can The Last of Us offer that's different? Regrettably, not a lot, and the crux of the problem comes down to Sam's unfortunate demise at the very end of the episode, one which ultimately makes it look like they brought in a deaf character for pity points, rather than an opportunity to boost deaf representation. Now, this is interesting because I don't think most normal viewers would really take the episode and think that they were trying to boost deaf representation. I mean, surely boosting deaf representation in TV and film is to just have a deaf character and have him be a great character, which is what Sam was here. I think he was a fucking great character in this episode. Very... you already feel for him, and I wouldn't call it pity points. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I felt more bad for this Sam than the one in the game, but I think this relationship is just more adorable, because they're both younger here than they were in the game, and because he's deaf, obviously, yeah, you feel a little bit more bad for him, but I wouldn't call it scoring pity points. I think it was just a more effective way of... potentially a more effective way of telling their story. Let me be clear, I'm not arguing that every deaf character should be made immune from turning into a fungi-ridden zombie. That's kind of Ellie's whole stick, blah, blah, but at least center them in their own stories. The Walking Dead did this well by giving Connie solo scenes where she had to navigate the challenges of a hearing world on their own. The Last of Us, meanwhile, chose to spend the majority of episode 5 emphasizing just how caring and selfless Henry is in looking after his deaf younger brother. Hearing saviorism is a very real thing, and it's about sickening his mutated cordyceps. Now I remember why this review pissed me off. I mean, this is just so fucking dumb. First off, this is a stupid comparison because Sam and Henry are not in the game for long anyway, maybe like 2 to 3 hours, right? And what do they expect? Like a whole episode dedicated to Sam? That would, they've got 9 episodes to tell the whole first game. They cannot afford to do that. And that would also be going away from the source material because Sam is never really split up from any of the characters. He's pretty much always with his brother in the game. And you have this here. The Last of Us, meanwhile, chose to spend the majority of episode 5 emphasizing just how caring and selfless Henry is and looking after his deaf younger brother. Like that's a bad thing. An older brother looking after his younger, deaf, 8-year-old brother in a world infected by, you know, fucking mushrooms, and then everyone's trying to kill everyone. Yeah, wow. Hearing saviorism is a very real thing, and it's sickening. So, wow, the fact that someone cares for their little deaf brother is disgusting, apparently, to the person who wrote this review. If Henry genuinely cared, he would actively look to involve Sam in every conversation, not force him to ask constantly what other people are saying, which he does several times in the episode. Sam is 8 years old, he's scared, alright, maybe it's for the best he doesn't hear these brutal adult conversations about how they might not make it through the day, how they're running out of food, how they're running out of ammo. What part of this, like, just, I don't understand what the reviewer is even thinking here. In the deaf community, the isolation experience in an inaccessible social environment where the deaf awareness is taking place is aptly known as dinner table syndrome. If Henry genuinely cared, he would also have provided full details of a spoken conversation had without Sam's involvement, rather than telling him his own filtered or sugar-coated perspective of events. I think this is a very silly point again. I think it's just a case of not necessarily dumbing it down, but like simplifying it for the child, you know, because like you don't want to just panic them with like the brutal information that Henry has just been provided with by, you know, say another character. What would have been great to see is Sam, what with his love of superheroes after all, left to fend for himself at some point, perhaps when the horde of infected descend upon him in that epic final action scene. Watching him from the house, you're telling me we couldn't have seen him whack one of the zombies in the head after getting bitten? What is it? How do people actually get jobs writing reviews? It's incredible how dumb this is. He never gets left to fend for himself in the fucking game, for starters. Now, don't get me wrong, I know the show is taking steps away from the source material, which is fine, but I just don't see the relevance whatsoever with this point here. You're telling me we couldn't have seen him whack one of the zombies on the head after getting bitten? An 8-year-old has just been bitten, right? He's in no position to be fucking shanking zombies. I just don't see what they feel they've missed here. What they're saying is they wanted a deaf 8-year-old growing up in Apocalypse to be a badass and not be protected by his older brother, whose job it is to protect him. That's their gripe with this. Only framing deaf people through the lens of hearing people rather than as individuals in their own right implies that we are always dependent on the majority to get by in life. That's a ridiculous and dangerous falsehood. There may be times, say, in an end of the world scenario where we may need a bit more of a helping hand, but that does not make us completely codependent. I don't know why they're getting so mad like they've never been represented when they literally used 2 examples at the start of this review of when deaf people have been represented in apocalypse situations. We see a little bit of Sam's character in his pleasant relationship with Ellie, showing a love of fun and comments together. Her genuine enthusiasm to learn the odd sign here and there, endure and survive, are sweet as they are refreshing. I'd like to think that the end of the world kind of makes you think your priorities. That's true. Yet the conversation between him and Ellie border on inspiration porn. Huh? What the fuck is that? An idea coined by the late great Stella Young to describe the narrative whereby disabled people are seen as thriving or persevering despite their disability. Bless, Sam is scared of the world and the monster, but look how brave he is despite his deafness. What? They've put 2 and 2 together and got 6,000 with this statement. What the fuck are they actually talking about? The fact that Sam being deaf is never once mentioned in the episode might seem like a good thing. Representation we don't have to make a big song and dance about and people get nose but in actuality it's a missed opportunity. Why would it need to be mentioned that he's deaf? He's clearly deaf. We could have gained more of an understanding about Sam's character and his feelings around his deaf identity had this been acknowledged head on. By failing to be explicit, there is a risk of viewers assuming that his deafness is lumped in with the general apocalypse as a subject matter, which he'd rather not talk about. Ellie and Sam having kicked him out in the tunnels looks sweet enough as a distraction from the outside, but when Henry has already enforced a pity narrative around Sam, anything which stands in immediate and direct opposite to that as happy as seen as inspirational. What is he talking about? When Henry has already enforced a pity narrative, it wasn't a pity narrative. For reference, Henry talks to Joel about how he had to get like leukemia medication for young Sam because he was suffering from that. It's just, how is that a pity narrative? Proper deaf representation doesn't occur when you paint deaf people as either individuals to be pitied or to be upheld as inspirations. Unfortunately, The Last of Us jolts between the two in the space of an hour. So when Henry shoots Sam and turns a gun on himself and Ellie writes, "I'm sorry" on the pad to replace him, we go back to this being a tragedy, the loss of an inspiration for Ellie and Henry's shame at not doing enough to protect Sam from the danger. Ask yourself, did you really connect with Sam or just how he was perceived by hearing people? Deaf people are not plot devices to develop hearing characters. We have our own stories to tell. The Last of Us just didn't share Sam's fully. I'm guessing a deaf person wrote this. Is he going to tell me? No, I don't think it will. Well, that was not as bad as the other review I read because the other one was really shit. But this was pretty poor as well. I just feel like, you know, they've picked something like a minor change and they've just blown it out of proportion into like it's this majorly offensive thing that's taken place on screen, when I don't think any viewer would really pick up a problem with this. I mean, surely they should. I don't want to sound like a dick here, but surely they should be fucking like, oh, that's nice. They decided to make the character deaf. What's the issue? You've got more representation. Sam was the best character in the episode. Everyone was gutted when Sam died. What is the issue with the representation here? But yeah, those are two just reviews I wanted to talk about. Obviously, I do reviews, and you know, sometimes I look back at my reviews and I think they're not perfect. Sometimes I think I make points that maybe aren't right or aren't fair, but you know, I've said my piece at the time. That's what I thought. You move on. You try and make better reviews. But these are just so far off. They're just, in my eyes, so full of bullshit that I just can't quite comprehend what I've even read. But yeah, it's quite something. But the winner for worst review has to be this Hogwarts Legacy one. Absolute trash. Anyway, yeah. Let me know what you think about those reviews, because I think they're sensational. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.